Good morning, students. Welcome to our online class. This is your second period, and the subject is social science. Students, today I am starting the last chapter, that is Nationalism in India, from the history book. With this chapter, your syllabus for the academic session 2020-21 will be completed. I request and appeal and suggest all my students to watch the video carefully so that you can understand the complete chapter in a easy manner. Okay, students? So let us begin the chapter. The chapter name is Nationalism in India. Students, in the previous chapter, you have studied about modern nationalism in Europe. Okay, you have studied about the modern nationalism in Europe. And that modern nationalism in Europe, the feeling of the nationalism led to the formation of nation states. That means the feeling of nationalism which was started in European continent, it paved the way for the establishment of nation states. It also meant a change in people's understanding. Through nationalism, there was a change in the people's understanding of who they were and what defined their identity and sense of belonging. Several new symbols and icons, new songs and ideas forged new links and redefined the boundaries of communities. In most countries, the making of this new national identity was a long process. So it was a long process. So how did this consciousness emerged in India? Let us study in this chapter. Already we have studied the nationalism in European continent. And what was the results of that nationalism, that also we have studied. Establishment of nation states. People began to identify themselves. Several new icons, new songs, new symbols, they were came to existence. Okay, in many countries, okay, the new national identity was a long process. Let us see how it was, how this nationalism emerged in India, and in which century it was started. In India, as in Vietnam. Vietnam is also one of the South East Asian countries. So in India and as in Vietnam and many other colonies, the growth of modern nationalism is intimately connected to the anti-colonial movement. That means the feeling of nationalism was started in India. The feeling of nationalism was started in India against the colonial government. Same we have seen in Vietnam and several other colonies. In several other colonies, Vietnam and India, the feeling of nationalism generally emerged against the colonial government. It is due to the anti-colonial movement, the feeling of nationalism have been emerged in India, Vietnam and several other colonies. People began discovering their unity in the process of their struggle with colonialism. I repeat, people began discovering, their unity in the process of their struggle with colonialism. Okay, the sense of being oppressed, under colonial government, under British rule, we were oppressed, suppressed since for many years. Nearly towards 2 centuries. So the sense of being oppressed under the colonialism provided a shared bond, that tied many different groups together. That means it was during it was during the colonial government, okay, and their exploitation, their oppression on the people of the colony made the people to come together. It made the people to come together into one shared common bond, and they fought against the colonial government. But each class and group, okay, felt the effects of colonialism in different way. I mean, many people participated in this nationalism movement in India against colonial government, and here for different class, for different group people, okay, the effects of colonialism was differently. Their experiences were varied. Their experiences also different, and their notions, okay, of freedom were also not always the same. The Congress, I mean the Indian National Congress under Mahatma Gandhi, the Indian National Congress under Mahatma Gandhi tried to forge these groups. I mean, the Indian National Congress under the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi, or Mahatma Gandhi tried to bring all the different groups of people together with one movement, But the unity did not emerge without conflicts. Yes, unity was developed, but this unity which was developed without conflicts. I mean, unity was developed by Mahatma Gandhi. He brought all the class people, different sections of people together into one, and made the people to revolt against the colonial government, British rule. But this unity which Mahatma Gandhi brought among all the sections of people was not an easy task. I mean, there were so many conflicts were there in bringing these people together. So without conflicts, this unity was not developed, what I want to say. So in the early class, that is in class 9th, in class 9th you have studied about the growth of nationalism in India. In your class 9th, you have studied the growth of nationalism in India, okay, up to the first decade of 20th century. First decade means what? Up to 1910. Up to 1910. So, in the 9th class, you have studied about the growth of nationalism in India up to the first decade of 20th century. Now, in this chapter, that is nationalism in India, in this chapter, okay, we will pick up the story from 1920s. From 1920s onwards, we will study, okay, in this chapter we will pick up the story from 1920s and study the non-cooperation movement, the civil disobedience movement, etc. I mean, non-cooperation movement and the civil disobedience movement. Both these movements were started by Mahatma Gandhi, and these movements were started after 1920 only. So in this chapter, we will pick up the topics from 1920 onwards or 1920s onwards. Okay, and we will elaborately study about the non-cooperation movement and the civil disobedience movement, which was started under the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi. Why it was started, when it was started, what are the effects, what are the consequences of these movements. Okay, we will also explore how the Congress, we will also find out, explore means find out, we will also explore how the Congress sought to develop the national movement, how different social groups participated in these two movements, and how nationalism captured the imagination of the people. Everything we will study in this chapter, what nationalism in India. Now let us move first to our first topic, that is the First World War, Khilafat and non-cooperation. Our first topic is the First World War, the Khilafat and non-cooperation. We all know that First World War started on 1914 and ended in 1918. So August 1914 is the beginning of First World War, and it was ended in November 1918. That already we know that one. Similarly, Khilafat movement. This Khilafat movement was started by two Muslim brothers. The Khilafat movement was started by two Muslim brothers. One is Maulana Muhammad Ali, One is Maulana Muhammad Ali, and second is Shaukat Ali, Maulana Shaukat Ali. So these two Ali brothers, they started Khilafat movement against the British rule in India. Against the British rule in India. And in this movement, Mahatma Gandhi supported them. I repeat, the Khilafat movement. The Khilafat movement was started in India by the Muslims, and it was started by two leaders. Both are brothers, both are Muslim brothers. One is namely Maulana Muhammad Ali and Maulana Shaukat Ali. These two Muslim brothers, they started the Khilafat movement against the Britishers in India after World War I. Why? Because the Muslim head, that is Khalifa, who is the ruler of Turkey, so that person was completely humiliated. That person was, the Muslim head, the Muslim religious head all over the world was the Sultan of Turkey. The Sultan of Turkey is regarded as the head of Muslims all over the world, their religious head. So that person was completely humiliated after World War I, which is not liked by the Muslims all over the world. Same with the case of Indian Muslims also. Hence, to take revenge, they led a movement against the Britishers. That is about Khilafat movement. Now, non-cooperation movement. This non-cooperation movement also started by, this non-cooperation movement was started by Mahatma Gandhi. This movement was led under the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi, based on truth and non-violence. And this non-cooperation movement, in this movement, we got the support from this Muslim people also. We supported the Khilafat movement. Indians supported, Hindus supported the Khilafat movement against Britishers. Similarly, in the non-cooperation movement, which is led by Indian National Congress under the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi, the Muslim people also supported us. So this Khilafat movement and non-cooperation movement, both movements were against the British rule in India. Okay, now I am going into the chapter. In the years after 1919, we see the national movement spreading to new areas. After 1919, in the years after 1919, we see the national movement spreading to new areas, incorporating new social groups and developing new modes of struggle. Okay, how do we understand these developments? What implications did they have? I repeat, in the years after 1919 in India, we see the nationalist movement or national movement spreading to new areas, incorporating new social group people and developing a new mode of struggle. So how do we understand these developments? What implications did they have? Let us find out. First of all, the World War I. So first of all, I want to say the World War created a new economic and political situation in India. The World War which was started in 1914 and ended in 1918. So this World War created a new economic and political situation in India. It led to a huge increase in defense expenditure. One question will be asked in the board exam for you. So how did World War I? I repeat, how did World War I created a new economic and political situation in India? What are they? How did World War I have created new economic and political situation in India, and what are they? So I repeat like this. Yes, it is true. The World War I have created some new economic and political situations in India. First one, it led to a huge increase in defense expenditure. The World War I, it made what? It led to a huge increase in defense expenditure, which was financed by war loans. That means the World War I led to a huge increase in defense expenditure, which was financed by the war loans. Second one, increasing taxes. The taxes were increased. Custom duties were raised. An income tax was introduced. So here, second one is what? Increased taxes. The World War I led to increased taxes, or the taxation system was increased. Custom duties were raised. Whatever existing custom duties were there, they were also increased. Next one, income tax was introduced in India. Okay. Through the war years, when the war was in progress, when the World War One was in progress, okay, when the war was in progress, or through the war years, prices increased. Yes, generally, whenever there will be war, then the prices of the goods and services will be increased. So same thing happened here. Through the war years, prices increased, or I can say prices doubling between 1913 to 1918. From 1913, actually World War started actually 1914. But before the beginning of World War One, from 1913 onwards up to 1918 till the end of World War One, the prices were increased. Prices were doubled, just doubled, and it had a lot of impact on the people. So prices were just doubled, okay, leading to extreme hardships for the common people. Yes, whenever the prices will increase, this will have what lot of impact on the common people, because common people are unable to purchase the goods and services when the prices will be increased. Villages were called upon to supply soldiers, because when the war started, we need more and more soldiers to fight in the war. Okay, and at the time, soldiers are less in number. So villages were called. There was a call given to the villages that they should supply. Villages should supply. I mean, a, an order was given to the an order was given by the British government to Indian villages that they should supply the soldiers. Okay, so villages were called upon. Villages were called upon to supply soldiers. So at the time, soldiers were brought from villages, because village people, they are hardworking, well built. Okay, so villages were called upon for what? To supply soldiers. And the forced recruitment in rural areas caused widespread anger. Forced recruitment. Here, recruitment means what? The British government forcefully recruited the soldiers. They collected one member from each family and forced them to join in the army and to help them in the World War One. So the British government, they introduced forced recruitment. Through this forced recruitment, they collected one member from each family as soldiers. They were trained and they were sent to fight in the World War One on behalf of Britain. So when this was started, when the forced recruitment was started, so there was a widespread anger by the people. Okay. Then in 1918, 1919, then in 1918, 1919 and 1920, 21, 1918, 19 and 1920, 21, crops also failed. During 1918, 1919, crops failed. Again, once again, 1920, 21, the crops failed in many parts of India. Okay, and when the crops were failed, it resulted in what? Shortage of food. When the crops were failed, okay, in these two periods, 1918, 1919 and 1920, 21, in most of the parts of India, then naturally there arose the shortage of food grains, food supply. Moreover, this was accompanied by an influenza epidemic. One dangerous disease, influenza epidemic was also started. See, all problems started at a time during World War One. Okay, so according to census 1921, during British government only, we started doing what? Census counting, population counting. It was started during British rule only. It is the British government who started the census counting, population counting. So according to the census 1921, 12 to 13 million people perished, died. According to census 1921 in India, before independence. This census 1921 means before independence under British rule. It was came to know that 12 to 13 million people were perished, died as a result of famines and the epidemic. Famines means what? Due to lack of food. Food crisis was there. Due to what? That lot of, crops failure. And moreover, influenza, another epidemic. So due to the famines, due to this dangerous influenza epidemic, Many people were perished, killed, died during that period. People hoped that their hardships would end after the war. All the people, they expected that all these troubles, all these hardships, katinaya, all these hardships, all these troubles will be ended when the war will be over. Okay, but it did not happen. Though the war was ended in 1918, November 1918, the World War I was ended, but still these hardships were continued and people were the sufferers. At this stage, at this time, I mean, this is the situation. At this stage, a new leader appeared. At this stage, a new leader appeared and suggested a new mode of struggle. When India was passing through the hardships, World War I was ended in 1918. Still, the problems are there in the country, famines, influenza, etc., etc. So, at this stage in India, a new leader appeared and suggested a new mode of struggle, and he was none other than but what? Mahatma Gandhi. Now, the first one, 1.1 topic, that is the idea of Satyagraha. It will be asked to you, what is meant by Satyagraha? What is meant by Satyagraha? What is the idea behind Satyagraha? Who introduced this concept? So the answer is, it is Mahatma Gandhi who introduced the term Satyagraha for the first time. It was Mahatma Gandhi who was introduced the term Satyagraha for the first time. He defined Satyagraha. He explained what is meant by Satyagraha. Okay, let us see. So the idea of Satyagraha. Mahatma Gandhi, listen carefully, underline. Okay, underline in the textbook. Mahatma Gandhi returned to India in January 1915. When did Mahatma Gandhi return to India? 1915. You know, Mahatma Gandhi was born in Porbandar in Gujarat. He completed his early education here, and for higher studies he went to London. There he studied barrister, he studied law. Then to practice that law he went to South Africa. He stayed there for a few years, where he fought against the racial discrimination, that is apartheid policy. Mahatma Gandhi is a person who fought against apartheid policy, the racial discrimination policy which has been practiced in South Africa by the colonial government. And there he got success. So from South Africa, he returned back to India in 1915. Remember, he returned back in India in 1915. As you know, he had come from South Africa, where he had successfully fought. I told you now, Mahatma Gandhi successfully fought what? That racial discrimination policy in South Africa. Okay, next. So he fought against the racist regime. Mahatma Gandhi successfully fought against the racist regime with a novel method of mass agitation, which he called as what? Satyagraha. That means Mahatma Gandhi, for the first time, he used Satyagraha in South Africa. Mahatma Gandhi, for the first time, used what? The word Satyagraha in South Africa. And with the help of that novel method of mass agitation. What is Satyagraha? Satyagraha is a novel method of mass agitation. Satyagraha is a novel method of mass agitation. And with this novel method of mass agitation, Satyagraha, Mahatma Gandhi fought against the racist regime in South Africa, where he got success. Now, the idea of Satyagraha emphasized, what that Satyagraha actually, it emphasizes, what it tells. What does the Satyagraha word actually emphasizes, tells. So the idea of Satyagraha, emphasized the power of truth. The idea of Satyagraha emphasized the power of truth and the need to search for truth. I repeat once again. The idea of Satyagraha emphasized the power of truth and the need to search the truth. The power of truth and the need to search truth is the main idea behind Satyagraha. Or I can say, the idea of Satyagraha emphasized. The idea of Satyagraha emphasized the power of truth and the need to search for truth. Okay. Next, Satyagraha suggested that if the cause was true, Satyagraha always says, if the cause was true, if the struggle was against injustice, Satyagraha always says that if the cause was true, I mean the purpose for which we are fighting is true. If the cause was true and the struggle was against injustice and you are fighting against injustice, then physical force was not necessary. When the cause was true and when you're doing struggle against injustice, then there's no need to use physical force to fight against the oppressor. Whenever you are fighting for truth, whenever you are fighting against injustice, then at that time the physical force, I mean violent methods, the physical force was not necessary to fight against the oppressor. Next one, without seeking vengeance, okay, or being aggressive. I mean, without being vengeance and aggressive, I mean, we should not become aggressive. So, without being vengeance, or I can say without seeking vengeance and aggressive and being aggressive, yes, Satyagrahi. Who is Satyagrahi? The follower of Satyagraha. Who is Satyagrahi? The follower of Satyagraha. So, without seeking vengeance or aggressive, a Satyagrahi, an ideal Satyagrahi, could win the battle through non-violence. An ideal Satyagrahi, without seeking any forceful methods, without becoming aggressive. So, an ideal Satyagrahi could win the battle through non-violence. I mean, Gandhiji proved that we can win the battle by following non-violence, without being aggressive, without seeking vengeance. Okay, when the cause is true, when you are fighting against injustice, then there is no need to use physical force. Okay, not necessary against the oppressor. Moreover, without seeking vengeance or without becoming aggressive, an ideal Satyagrahi could win the battle through non-violence. So, this could be done by appealing to the conscience of the oppressor. I mean, we have to attack on the conscience of the oppressor. I mean, psychologically, we have to hit that person without using physical force. So, this could be done by appealing to the conscience of the oppressor. Okay. Now, people including the oppressors, okay, had to be persuaded to see the truth. I mean, we should make the oppressor see what is true, what is false, or what is true, what is bad, or what is wrong, what is true, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad, what is justice, what is injustice. So you should make the oppressor to think through his mind. Then he himself will stop doing injustice. So what is said here? This could be done by appealing to the conscience of the oppressor. People, including the oppressors, had to be persuaded to see the truth instead of being forced to accept the truth. We should not force anybody to accept the truth. They have to realize what is true, what is false, what is justice, what is injustice. So the oppressor should feel, he should realize that one. We should not force the person to accept the truth. Okay, through the use of, I mean, we should not use violent method also. We should not use violent methods to force somebody to accept the truth. Listen, we should not use violent methods, or we should not use violence to make a person to understand what is true. Actually, we should persuade that person. We should make the person to understand what is true, what is false. By the struggle, truth was bound to be ultimately trump. I mean, always truth wins. Always truth wins. Truth always trump. I mean, truth always wins against false or wrong things. Mahatma Gandhi believed that this dharma, this dharma of non-violence could unite all Indians. Mahatma Gandhi strongly believed that the dharma, this dharma, I mean Satyagraha, this dharma, I mean practicing non-violence, practicing truth, practicing justice. So practice of truth, practice of justice, practice of non-violence, this dharma could always help in uniting the Indians. This was the belief of Mahatma Gandhi. So after arriving in India, I told you Mahatma Gandhi returned back from South Africa to India in January 1915. So after arriving in India, Mahatma Gandhi successfully organized satyagraha movements in various places. After coming from South Africa, Mahatma Gandhi organized several satyagraha movements at various places in India, such as Champaran. Champaran is a place in Bihar. So in Champaran, he organized the satyagraha. He organized the satyagraha movement. Similarly, Kheda. Kheda is a place in Gujarat. Kheda district of Gujarat. There also he organized a satyagraha movement. Then he also organized a place called Ahmedabad. Ahmedabad is also a place in Gujarat. So there also he fought against the mill workers. So at three places he organized the satyagraha movements. In all places he got success. I repeat, Mahatma Gandhi, after coming back to India in 1915, he has organized several satyagraha movements in India at various places. First place is Champaran, that is in 1916, 1917. 1917 he organized Champaran. Against that forceful against the force of the British planters to grow the indigo by the Indian farmers. The British planters in Champaran district are forcing the Indian farmers, Indian peasants to grow indigo in their field, which was not willing by our Indian farmers. So that is, he organized the movement there. Second one, Kheda. Third one, Ahmedabad. At three places he organized that one, 1916, 17, 1918, so 1917 and 1918. Okay. Now, in 1916, he traveled to Champaran. I told you, Champaran is a place in Bihar. Where is Champaran? Bihar. So the place Champaran will be asked you in board examination regarding in map pointing. So remember students, the place Champaran is in Bihar. Okay, so the Champaran place will be asked you to locate in board exam. Okay, so please pay concentration on Champaran. So in 1916, Mahatma Gandhi traveled through Champaran in Bihar to inspire the peasants, to struggle against the oppressive plantation system. One oppressive plantation system was practiced in Champaran district of Bihar. There, the British planters, they forced Indian peasants, Indian farmers to grow indigo in their fields, because the indigo was great demand in European countries. This indigo was used for what? Dyeing the cloths. Coloring the cloths. DYE, dye. Coloring the clothes. So indigo had a lot of demand in European countries. So the British planters, because British rule was there in India, so the British planters, they forced Indian peasants to grow the indigo in their fields. But Indian peasants, they are not willing that one. Hence they were forced to grow that one. Why Indian peasants are not willing? Because once you grow the indigo, the soil fertility is being decreased. The soil fertility is being decreased, and later it will result in what? Low production of food grains. That's why Indian peasants are not accepting this plantation system. Okay. Then what happened? So Mahatma Gandhi went there, Champaran district. He inspired all the peasants to revolt against the British planters, against the plantation system, which is not good. And Mahatma Gandhi also fought against the British planters. He made a report and sent to British government that this forceful method is not correct on part of Indian peasants, so immediately you should stop that one. And there he got success. Similarly, in 1917, I told you, in 1917, he organized a satyagraha. To support the peasants of Kheda district in Gujarat. Kheda district is in Gujarat. This Kheda also will be asked you to locate in the map in board examination. So in 1917, remember, in 1917, Mahatma Gandhi organized a satyagraha to support the peasants of the Kheda district in Gujarat. Where is Kheda? Gujarat. Where is Kheda district? Gujarat. What Mahatma Gandhi organized? Mahatma Gandhi organized a satyagraha movement. Mahatma Gandhi organized a satyagraha movement in support of the peasants of Kheda district against the British revenue officials, against the British revenue officials. That means Mahatma Gandhi, he supported the peasants of Kheda district and he fought against the British revenue officials. Actually, the British revenue officials, they are forcing the Indian peasants or farmers to pay high land revenue, even though when the crop was failure in a particular year. Generally, when the crop will be failed in a particular year, the farmers can't pay the land revenue to the British government. So, but at the time, the British government is forcing them to pay. So they were exploited in this way. So they requested Mahatma Gandhi to support them. So Mahatma Gandhi went there in 1917 and he fought in favor of peasants against the British revenue officials, and he wrote a report to the British government, and the British government agreed, yes, when the crops will be failed at the time, the taxes will be collected either less or that the tax will be collected in the later year. So that also agreed. So in this way, that movement also was successful. Similarly, here, affected by the crop failure and the plague epidemic, plague was started. That a plague is a very dangerous disease. It's caused due to the rats. So affected by the crop failure and the plague epidemic, the peasants of Kheda district not able to pay the land revenue and were demanded that revenue collection to be what? Relaxed. That was the demand of the peasants in Kheda district. But the British revenue officials are not willing to do that one. So Mahatma Gandhi went there, helped them and forced the British government to agree for that one, for the relaxation of the land revenue. Similarly, in 1918, Mahatma Gandhi went to Ahmedabad. Ahmedabad is a place in Gujarat. Even Ahmedabad also will be asked to you in the map pointing from this chapter. So Mahatma Gandhi went to Ahmedabad to organize a satyagraha movement against the cotton mill workers. He went Ahmedabad in support to the mill workers against the mill owners. Mahatma Gandhi went to Ahmedabad in 1918 and he supported the mill workers against the mill owners. Actually, the Ahmedabad mill owners, in Ahmedabad, so many cotton textile mills are there. So the mill owners, they are forcing the laborers, the workers, to work for more hours, and they paid less wages, meager wages, MEAGRE, meager wages, MEARGE, meager wages, less wages, and forced to do more work, which is injustice. So the workers are not happy, they were unhappy. They heard about Mahatma Gandhi, his success in South Africa, his success in Champaran, his success in Kheda district. So they welcomed Mahatma Gandhi to Ahmedabad. So Mahatma Gandhi, on the request, he went to Ahmedabad and he fought in favor of the mill workers against the mill owners, and he was successful, and 30% increment was made in the salaries of the mill workers. Okay. So these are the three achievements of Mahatma Gandhi. One achievement he made, that he fought against the racist regime in South Africa. And three achievements already made in India. One is at Champaran. He ended that plantation system. Second one, he supported the peasants in Kheda district to relax the land revenue during the time of famines, floods and epidemics. Third one, he helped the mill workers against the mill workers and fought against the mill owners and increased their salaries around 30%. So these three achievements are made by Mahatma Gandhi in the early years. So now, actually, Mahatma Gandhi was only confined to Gujarat earlier. Okay, nobody knows about him all over India. But these three achievements made Mahatma Gandhi popular all over India. And now Mahatma Gandhi came to be known as a national figure in our country, India. Now, in our next video, we'll start the new topic, that is Rowlatt Act. Okay, students? Thank you. So, I am preparing videos. 3-4 videos I'll make. You observe each video so that you can understand the chapter in a better manner. Clear? So, this is the first video, first part of this chapter. Second part, I'll start with some new topics. Okay, students? Till then, take care. Thank you.